Yu-Gi-Oh players, we are facing a bit of an epidemic here. The Glue Eaters have gotten a hold of the Dark Neostorm set, and the card that they always wanted, Mystic Mine, has propelled their helmet strategies to possibly the top of the meta. Being able to play Mystic Mine Burn is probably one of the more degenerative decks of all time. Yes, even more helmet than Bujin, and we need to prepare for it. Fortunately, not only am I going to be giving you a complete breakdown on the strategy and how it operates, I'm also going to provide some cards as well as some strategies that can counteract it. I'm TheCaliEffect, and if you guys want to see more videos like this, then destroy that subscribe button. But more importantly, go ahead that notification bell because, well, we just too strong. Also want to give a special thanks to every single one of my Patreons. Without you guys, videos like this would not be possible. And also a mad shout out to our newest Patreon, John Aglin. Welcome to the clan. Make sure you add yourself to that Discord as well as much as me or one of my admins so we can get you into the top dogs so you can take advantage of all your rewards. And while I am here, don't be a glue eater, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone join the Discord. We have so many things inside of our community to offer. It's really fun just to be a part of a brotherhood that likes to communicate. Without further ado, I present to you a video on how to beat the Mystic Mine deck. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so breaking down the Mystic Mine Burn strategy, this is the closest you guys are going to get to me for a deck profile for this deck. It is very reliant on its field spell, Mystic Mine. Who would have guessed? And what this card does is that when your opponent controls more monsters than you, then your opponent can't activate any of their monster effects or declare an attack. And if you control more monsters than your opponent, well, you can't activate any monster effects or attack. Now, the reason why this card is so good for the deck is because you don't play any monsters except for Lilith Lady Lammis, which actually just tributes itself to get you a card like Metaverse or Trap Tricks, which will essentially get you Mystic Mine to your side of the field. Another thing that you guys might want to know about Mystic Mine is that if you and your opponent control the exact same number of monsters during the end phase, Mystic Mine is destroyed, and that would probably be a very good opening for you guys to get rid of Mystic Mine, but unfortunately they play cards like Ojama Trio, which will give you 3 monsters to your side of the field, almost guaranteeing that you will always have more monsters than them. There are so many ways to deal with this Mystic Mine strategy, but essentially the mainstay of the deck is to activate Mystic Mine to prevent your opponent from activating those precious monsters or attacking, and then just burn them to death. They have a really powerful card in Wave Motion Cannon because the longer the game takes, the more counters this card gets. And the more counters that this card gets, well, I mean, it can just outright win the game. Cards like Secret Barrel and Just Desserts are used just to burn the living daylights out of the opponent, and I guess you guys are getting it. Negate your opponent's monster effects, prevent them from attacking, and completely annihilate them with your burn trap cards. Now the deck is stupid consistent because you have access to cards like Card of Demise and Pot of Duality, which prevent you from special summoning and preventing you from inflicting battle damage to your opponent, but Mystic Mine again plays no monsters, so this is probably one of the very few decks that gains full advantage of both of these cards for essentially nothing. Another thing that I want to point out about Mystic Mine players is that some of them are actually pretty smart. Of course, you have the Glue Eaters for the wide base of them, but a lot of players understand the mechanics of the deck and that they're not just gonna willy-dilly activate Mystic Mine before you even commit to a monster, so there definitely are openings for you to be able to disrupt them before they can get Mystic Mine to their side of the field, but at the same time, a good Mystic Mine player will have counters for your counters. So be aware, all the cards that I'm going to talk to you guys about are really good, but normally you might even want to have a backup plan for their backup plan. It becomes a really big mind game, which is another reason why the deck is just so good. I'm gonna split this up into different sections just so you guys know which cards belong where and what exact strategy or part of the strategy that we are countering. The very first way and the most straightforward way to counter Mystic Mine Burn is just to disable their spells and traps, and a monster like Denko Sekka is amazing against Mystic Mine. A lot of times the player doesn't want to commit any of their spell or trap cards or activate Mystic Mine before you summon a monster, because if you don't, the only thing you have to do is just pass your turn and Mystic Mine is gone. That's not going to give them a lot of value out of their field spell card, and they're going to have to burn more resources to get it to their side of the field. So normally they'll wait for that normal summon, and that's when Denko Sekka comes into the fray. You normal summon this bad puppy to your side of the field, and now they can't activate Metaverse or Trap Tricks, and you can proceed to OTK them. Now, of course, there's always counterplay for Denko Sekka. Some players actually do play the Solemn Brigade, such as Solemn Judgment or Solemn Warning, to get this card completely off the field, and then there's always Kaijus in the side deck that they could play to get rid of Denko Sekka, so you really have to watch out. Some other cards are, of course, your normal spell and trap card destruction, such as Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclone, and Mystical Space Typhoon. The reason why I don't think that Twin Twisters is one of the best answers is because of their card they play in the main deck, Dark Bribe. Activating Twin Twisters and discarding a card trigger in your hand to only get Dark Bribed is probably the worst feeling ever, because of course you were going to use that resource to get over your opponent's cards like Mystic Mine and possibly even a back row card or force them to activate the card, but using it to a Dark Bribe is a -1 and a win on their side. Yes, you did get rid of the Dark Bribe, but you really weren't trying to get rid of the Dark Bribe, you were trying to get rid of the Mystic Mine. Cosmic Cyclone and Mystical Space Typhoon basically both do the exact same thing, but it only has a singular target, so you're going to be trying to get rid of the Mystic Mine, and unfortunately, it will fall prey to Dark Bribe just alike. The only difference is you have basically a neutral situation where you'll just draw a card and hopefully draw into another one of your back row disruption cards to get rid of the Mystic Mine. A card like Unending Nightmare is perfect against this deck because not only can it hit multiple Mystic Mines any given time at the cost of 1,000 life points, but again, life points won't matter. If you're disrupting that Mystic Mine, you'll be able to put enough damage on the board to win the game. But you also have to watch out for Mystic Mine players playing Unending Nightmare themselves to destroy your Unending Nightmare. Imperial Order suffers the exact same fate. While it does negate Mystic Mine, it has the exact same counter situation. I'm not saying that these cards shouldn't be played, I just want you guys to be aware. A card that I really think is extremely powerful is Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Why? Because tributing a dark monster never felt so good. Declaring trap and destroying all of their cards is a good feeling, because even if you don't get the Metaverse or the Trap Trick, you destroy their cards like Just Desserts, Secret Barrel, and whatnot, or if they have a Wave Motion Cannon, declaring spells and destroying the already face-up Mystic Mine, and their Wave Motion Cannons can set them back a few turns. Now, the problem with Eradicator Epidemic Virus is that you kinda have to go first, because that is a situation that you don't want to be in, going second to set this card, and then waiting an entire nether turn to be able to trigger your Erads. Heavy Storm Duster is a pretty powerful card. The only problem is that it suffers the exact same fate as your Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Why? Because it's kind of slow. And yes, you'll be able to destroy 2 spells or trap cards, but you're kind of waiting just to be Dark Bribe. I'm not saying that they'll always have Dark Bribe, but in those situations that they do, you kind of wasted a few turns putting yourself in a pretty not so great position. A card that I really love and want to see play is Jinzo. Why? Because Jinzo almost works like Denko Sekka, except it needs a tribute summon, which means they'll probably activate Mystic Mine, but they won't be able to get advantage of all their other trap cards. The thing that I really want to talk about with Jinzo is that it actually has access to be spell summoned from the deck through Psychic Shockwave. At the cost of discarding a spell or trap card, you can spell summon Jinzo to your side of the field and completely negate that Trap Trick or that Metaverse, which would activate that Mystic Mine. I think that this is really good for the later games, and even better when going first, because you'll have access to it almost immediately and probably be able to run through or steamroll your opponent to all of their life points. Now that we are done talking about the disruption cards that you guys could be playing to destroy their spells and trap cards, we're gonna move on to the next segment. Sometimes just addressing the field spell in itself is what you need to win the game, and Closed Forest does exactly that. A card that prevents the opponent from activating spell cards or field spell cards is perfect, and the fact that you can activate it in the beginning of your turn is even better. Now, of course, it's a great going first and going second card. The only problem with Closed Forest is that it's kind of specific just to Mystic Mine, and once players start to notice that you're playing Closed Forest, that's when the back row disruption of their Unending Nightmares and cards alike come in to destroy your Closed Forest. I still think it's an amazing card and only has a couple of prints. Maybe you guys should buy it before it goes up in price, maybe? Black Garden is another one of those great cards that was gifted to the gods by us. Why? Because every time you summon a monster, your opponent would gain a token. Seeing that you can just activate Black Garden, summon monsters to your side of the field, and give your opponent's monsters, you wouldn't necessarily have more monsters than your opponent if you guys both control monsters. And then after continuously summon monsters to your side of the field, you guys would both equal 5, and then you can just pass your turn, and seeing that you guys both control 5 monsters, it would be destroyed every end phase of the turn that it's activated. I think that Black Garden is a big brain play. Addressing another card for the field spell is Set Rotation. And Set Rotation is extremely funny against this deck. Why? Well, because activating Set Rotation gives you a field spell card and giving your opponent a field spell card, which can completely annihilate them. Giving them a card like Oracle of Zephyr or Gateway of Chaos completely prevents them from activating it, which means they can't activate their Mystic Mine. The only problem with Set Rotation is that it's limited to 1, but it does, ladies and gentlemen, get you to your field spell, which could further your strategy. The next card we're going to talk about is Prohibition. I think Prohibition's actually pretty good. You can activate Prohibition, declare Mystic Mine, and then you just basically shut it off. Coincidentally, you can activate another Prohibition and declare cards like Dark Bribe, Unending Nightmare, or whatever counter card you feel that they're going to play, and completely stop them from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Prohibition just might be the best card to play against them. I haven't necessarily tested it yet, but in theory, it seems freaking awesome. And the last card that we're going to do to address the field spell card actually does nothing to address the field spell card whatsoever. Dark Hole. You never would think that destroying your monsters would feel so good. And in this particular situation, Dark Hole is better than Raigeki because there's no monsters for you to destroy on their side of the field, but you can always just Dark Hole your own board and then pass your turn, leaving them with 0 monsters on your side of the field and 0 monsters on their side of the field, meaning that Mystic Mine would be destroyed. The last way to deal with Mystic Mine is just to directly deal with the burn damage. If they can't deal burn damage to you, then they can't win the game. They don't have any monsters to attack your life points to 0. They're just gonna burn you to death. So DDD Rebel King Leonidas actually comes to mind. He has quite a few effects to prevent burn damage, but his most important effect doesn't even activate. It prevents burn damage whatsoever from being inflicted into you. Pendulum decks can probably rejoice because Electromite can search this card, and then summoning Rebel Leonidas is just good. The only drawback? Well, it's a kaiju, so I mean, I guess that happens. But you can always just Pendulum summon this monster right back to your side of the field and keep the ball rolling. And the last card I want to talk to you guys about is Rainbow Life. Why? Well, I mean, kind of obvious what Rainbow Life does against burn players. They activate that wave motion cannon thinking that they're going to hit for game, and then Rainbow Life comes into the fray and you're in a pretty good spot. Or they start using cards like Ring of Destruction and you chain that Rainbow Life to protect your life points. Ultimately, I think that Rainbow Life is a better card in the mirror match than any other situation, but it's still really, really funny. And one of the cheeky cards that I should mention, there are so many cards that prevent you from taking effect damage. Cards like Prime Material Dragon, I think Hanwanada, even a Morphtronic monster says you can't take damage. You can always just summon those monsters to your side of the field. You always have to beware of that kaiju, but until your opponent has it, then you know, you're not taking any damage. So I think that those are really good options as well. Now, off the top of my head, there are 4 decks that I feel that can deal with this Mystic Mine burn deck pretty easily. Pendulum obviously comes to mind because not only can they set up with multiple negate boards, they also have access to DDD Rebel King Leonidas. Another deck is Crusadia. Why? Because Black Garden is a card that can exist in the deck in multiples and not hinder the strategy. They actually love Black Garden and can definitely play around that card to make some insane multiple negate boards, but also, even going second, they can prevent that Mystic Mine effect from popping off. Dino is another one of those special decks, but not just any Dino. Lost World Dino actually gives tokens to your opponent's side of the field, so if you summon a monster, you can give your opponent a token and you can still play Yu-Gi-Oh! I didn't think that giving them a token would be so powerful, but I mean, it does allow the Dino deck a little bit of wiggle room to be able to combat the strategy. And the last strategy on my list, the strategy that completely counteracts this Mystic Mine deck, is True Draco. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, one of the cheapest decks in the format just so happens to be one of the strongest counters against them. Why? Because True Draco doesn't care about activating its monster effects, and they have 6 spell cards already built in to destroy your spell and trap cards. Another thing is that those spell and trap cards can't be dark bribed. So proceed to continuously destroy your opponent's spell and trap cards by tributing your spell and trap cards, and if they do dark bribe your True Draco spells on activation, well, you get to destroy spell and trap cards. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the Cali Effect. I want to know what you guys think we should be playing to counter this Mystic Mind Burn deck. As always, if you guys want to see more how to beat videos, comment down below in the comment section, as well as let us know and like this video what you want to see. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy. I hope you guys are having a great day like I am.